What is up, guys, and welcome to another video. It's nighttime. I've got a whiteboard out. I'm going to try and break down for y'all what is the best split that you should be following when it comes to training. Question I get asked many times, and to be honest with you, there is no simple answer. Reason behind that is because there's no perfect split, and it depends on a number of different factors. So, the first things we need to ask ourselves is, how many days should we be following in terms of a split, okay? And this is going to come down to a few different things. We need to take into account your level of experience. Are you a beginner or are you an advanced trainer? If you're a beginner, it would make more sense for you to follow a 3-day split. If you're more advanced, you've been training for years, you can get away with following a 5-day split, okay? Somewhere in between may be more appropriate for the majority of you people, but I wouldn't recommend an absolute beginner to get started on a 5 or 6-day split. Next thing is time. Okay, so how much time do you have available to dedicate to a training session? Okay, if you're really busy, you got kids, you got work, you got loads of stuff going on, don't try and overburden yourself with following a 5-day split because it's going to stress you out. You're not going to commit to it, and then the whole split is going to be an absolute mess, right? If you're a busy person, just say to yourself, hey, I just need to go to the gym and follow a 3-day split. That way, you can easily get it done and you can be more realistic about your training. If you got all the time in the world, then of course you can dedicate more time to going to the gym. Next, what are your goals? All right. If you just want to look athletic, you want to get a bit stronger, you want to put on a bit of muscle, you don't need to go to the gym 5 or 6 times per week. You only need to go to the gym 3 times per week, right? But if you're like me, you want to freaking jacked, pal, then the chances of you being more muscular will increase if you go to the gym more frequently. That's why I follow a 5-day split. Okay, so goals need to be taken into account. Then you need to be honest with yourself and ask, are you an inconsistent motherfucker or are you more consistent? Okay, be real with yourself. If you look at your track record of training and you've been on and off and you're just unable to commit to going to the gym 4 or 5 times per week or going every single week, then don't try and go 5 or 6 times per week. Maybe just start off, ease yourself back into it and just say, I just need to go 3 times per week. Okay. You're going to be a lot more consistent if you're that type of person, and you're going to get results if you go to the gym 3 times per week, but you do it every single week. More so than the person that goes to the gym 5 times per week. They do it for a couple of weeks and then they just take months off. Okay. Time off versus no time off. Okay. So this is how much time you've actually had off from the gym, right? So if you have had an injury, an illness, or you've been inconsistent and you've taken time off, then I would recommend easing yourself back into it. It doesn't make sense going from no training whatsoever to going straight into 5 to 6 sessions per week, okay? Gradually build it back up, and then over time, when your body starts to adapt and get used to it, you can start doing 4 times or 5 times per week, okay? If you've had no time off and you're consistent and you've always been going to the gym 4 to 5 times per week, every single week, then you can get away with doing a 5-6 day split. And then next of all is your level of activity. So not to say that you're not active, but I'm saying what other commitments do you have in terms of your physical activity, okay? Are you the type of person that likes to go on runs and jogs? Do you maybe have a little bit of boxing or sparring that you do a couple times a week? Do you do Pilates or yoga or whatever it might be? Do you play football twice a week? If you're the type of person that is very active and you're doing loads of other stuff, you're going to kill yourself trying to do 5 times per week. Your body's going to be absolutely spangled. And then your sessions are going to be terrible and you just won't even be able to recover. In fact, everything that you do will just suffer because you're trying to do too much, okay? So if you're doing loads of other activities that are demanding on your body, just go to the gym 3 times per week. You can build strength and size just by doing that. If you're doing literally nothing else, like me, you're an absolute pudding whose only form of activity outside of the gym is walking, then you can get away with training more frequently, okay? So hopefully that makes sense. Now, let's go through the different days and splits, which I would recommend. We'll start off with 3-day splits, okay? What would be my recommendation if you're going to go to the gym 3 times per week? You have a number of different options here. Now, one of probably the safest bets to go for would be full body. Why is it so good? Because each muscle group is getting trained 3 times per week. And then also, you could argue, you don't really experience too much soreness because you're not blasting volume in 1 or 2 particular muscle groups, okay? Your whole body's getting trained. So to train your body again, you can do so in a much shorter period of time because you're not needing that much recovery in between sessions. Solid split. Another one, upper, lower, full body. But this would be quite a good one to go for because you're doing a full upper body session, you're doing a full lower body session, and then to allow yourself to be hitting every muscle group again for the second time, you do that full body session. Now, there's some people who, like me, don't like to do full body. You could do upper, lower, upper, which again is pretty solid. Push-pull legs, very popular, very enjoyable. I would probably say probably the most enjoyable because you get a bit of a pump. The only downside to that is you're only hitting each muscle group once per week. Okay, so this is one I would probably advise for the more advanced lifters who are really pushing themselves in terms of the weight lifted and the intensity which they're training and already have a pretty decent degree of experience. But for everyone else, beginners, intermediate lifters, I would go for these ones. Another split would be the posterior anterior full body. Now, this one is not as popular, but it's another option which you could follow, whereby, for example, posterior, one of the sessions is calves, hamstrings, glutes, lower back, upper back, traps, and rear delts or triceps. Anterior, the front side of your body, quads, abs, chest, front delts, biceps. It's one way to do it. But as I said, not the most popular. But I would imagine most of you guys who are watching this video probably don't want to be doing the 3-day split. You'd be doing 4 or 5. So let's see what I would advise if you were doing 4 days per week. So again, we have the option of doing a full body session every single day. Pretty damn good. Every muscle group's getting hit 4 times per week. Another option, upper, lower, upper, lower. Your lower body's getting blasted. Upper body getting hit twice per week. You could argue that probably most people wouldn't want to do this because, again, they don't really care about hitting their lower body maybe as much, in which case you could just sacrifice this and then maybe do, I don't know, full body. That way, you may be getting your upper body hit a little bit more. It's completely up to you. Another very popular option, push-pull legs. This time we're adding an upper session on top of that. This is probably one I would definitely go for if I was training 4 times per week. You got a push session. You have a push session that you'd enjoy. You got a pull session, and you've also got the upper body, making sure the upper body's trained twice per week. And then this one, this is an interesting one. This is actually Dorian Yates' split. This is what he used to follow. It's kind of the equivalent of the 4-day bro split because each muscle group is getting hit once per week. Now, did Dorian get absolutely jacked following this split? Yes, he certainly did. But should a beginner be following this split? Probably not. But will they see results? Yes, they will. It's a pretty tasty one. I'd certainly enjoy it. But again, if you really wanted to grow your legs as much as possible, and you were only allocating 4 days per week to training, doing legs once per week, for most people, right? Dorian Yates excluded. For most people, they're not going to see maximum results only training it once per week. So it would make sense maybe to follow a split where the legs are getting hit twice, right? For example, maybe something like this. Another variety, this is one which I quite enjoyed doing, which is in my app, it's the horizontal push-pull, vertical push-pull. So back would be getting hit twice by doing the pushing and the pulling. And then on the 4th day, you do arms, chest, and delts. So this is one which I'd be a big fan of, to be honest, if I was doing the 4-day split. Now, none of them are bad. None of them are the best. They're just different options that you can follow. And of course, you can mix a few things around and do what feels best for you. Now, 5-day split, this is probably the one which most people care about the most because, well, it's actually shown inside of my app. The large majority of people that are selecting the frequency of days that they would like to train are the 5-day splits, okay? So this is where it gets interesting. Now, to do a full body session 5 times per week, these are not the same full body sessions. These are different full body sessions, okay? Again, nothing wrong with it. Pretty damn good. Although I personally would get bored of doing full body every single day, 5 times per week. So another option. This was actually one of the splits which I followed and introduced to the app earlier this year. This is the upper, lower, upper, lower, upper, okay? Great split in my opinion. Lower body's getting hit twice per week. Upper body's getting hit 3 times per week. I noticed that strength went up massively when I followed this. Now, this was probably because I was bringing the reps down, but I also noticed because I wasn't necessarily overkilling a particular muscle group in each session, legs excluded, I found that it was much quicker for me to recover after doing these sessions. So when it came to doing upper body again, I was relatively fresh and performance was very good. Next one, push, pull, legs, upper, lower. This is what I am actually currently doing, the newest split on my app. And I freaking love it, to be honest with you. Reason why, again, legs getting hit twice per week, upper body getting hit twice per week. You got a big push session where you're doing chest, shoulders, triceps, big pull session, back, biceps, and then the upper is just taking care of all the upper body muscle groups once again. And then legs. I mean, by following these 2 splits, where legs is getting hit twice per week, my legs are the biggest and strongest they've been for a very long time. But I'm doing that because that's one of my goals at the moment. I want bigger legs. I'm pretty happy with my upper body. Now, let's have a look at the friggin' bro split. The split which I did for the first 3 years of training. Did I get results? Yes, I certainly did. Although that particular one was skipped quite a lot. So upper body got pretty well developed. I was very stubborn actually to trying different splits. I thought this was just the thing I was going to do forever until I actually started experimenting with different splits and then realized, okay, this probably is not the most optimal one to follow. But it is quite interesting that I've been traveling the world and training with some of the most famous athletes and arguably athletes with the best physiques. And they like to follow this. So I feel as though when you get to the very extremes of training and you're just friggin' jacked, probably full of gear, you can really annihilate one particular muscle group in just one session. However, me going back to this after doing, 2 to 3 muscle groups per session, I find that the last half of the session or the last third of the session, I'm just completely gassed. Like that particular muscle, for example, if I just did full day of chest, my chest is spent. Like after 4 exercises, I don't really have much more to give. You could argue maybe you condition your muscle group or a muscle group to handle more endurance and volume. But for most people, it's absolutely not necessary to go to the gym and just annihilate one muscle group, okay? So I would say for most people, skip this unless you're a friggin' Mr. Olympia competitor. Another option, horizontal push-pull, vertical push-pull, legs twice, chest, delts, arms. Great split to follow. A very good all-rounder, an enjoyable one. And then we also have another friggin' tasty one, which probably won't be that popular, but it's just another option. These have all been put together, excluding the bro split, to hit the muscle group twice per week and build a balanced physique. Now, for those people, I would recommend following those splits. But after a certain period of time, most people tend to develop imbalances. They have certain muscle groups that are either just genetically way better in comparison to other muscle groups. They just grow without even needing to put much volume into training them. Or they just have this inability to engage or place tension on that particular muscle group. So that is when you need to start playing around with the splits, okay, where it becomes more tailored to you, right? So for me, right, good example. I noticed I had a very well-developed chest after a certain number of years of training. I actually did not need to be training my chest twice per week, okay? So it made no sense for me to be training chest twice per week when there was other muscle groups that needed more attention. So what did I do? I would manipulate and change the split. And the second time I would hit chest, I would just not hit chest and replace it with something else. Maybe I would do, more shoulder training. Maybe I would do more back training to try and bring up my physique. So that is why there is no perfect split, because it is completely dependent upon the individual. As I've said, there are splits which I would recommend for the majority of people to follow if the goal is to build a well-balanced physique. But after a certain point, it needs to become more tailored so that the stronger muscle groups don't get too strong and the weaker, lagging muscle groups don't fall behind so much that you just have this imbalanced, out of proportion looking physique. I've done all of the splits. I've got all my experience from doing and trying different things. The things I like about them, things I don't like about them. And in reality, there's not one split that I would stick to for the rest of my life. And even if it was the best split for me, I still wouldn't follow it forever, because it would bore me after a while. I like the variety, I like the change, I like to spice it up. So usually I just follow them for a couple of weeks. For me, at least, an advanced trainer, 5 weeks. And then I rotate and I switch to something else to make it interesting, and then also to just place more focus on certain muscle groups that may have been lagging, right, from training in the previous split. Right? Things are always changing. Keeping it interesting, keeping it entertaining, and ensuring that the physique stays balanced and well proportioned. So hopefully, guys, that has explained a couple of things for you, made it clearer as to which split you should follow. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in another video.